It all started with a choice, a simple one, the kind we all face at some point in our lives. You're walking down a crowded street, your mind running through bills, schedules, groceries, or just trying to make it through another exhausting day, when suddenly, there it is. A wallet. Just lying there. Alone. Stuffed, maybe, with more cash than you've seen all year. No one's around. No cameras. No witnesses. What do you do? Before you answer that, hold on, because the woman in this story made that same decision. And it changed her life in a way no one, not even she, could have imagined. You clicked on this video for one reason. You wanted to know what happened when she gave back that wallet. And I promise by the end of the story, you're going to get every answer and something even more powerful. Because this isn't just about a wallet. It's about what happens when honesty meets fate, and fate has a billionaire's last name. Now let's slow down. Breathe. I want you to picture her. Mid-20s, jeans slightly torn at the knees, not for style, but because they're old. A hoodie with paint stains from her side gig. Her name is Lila. She works 2 jobs, sometimes 3. She rents a basement room with a flickering ceiling light and keeps her groceries in a mini fridge that hums louder than her sleep. Lila isn't homeless, but she's hanging on by a thread. Every dollar counts. Every bus ride is calculated. Every time her phone rings, she holds her breath, hoping it's not the landlord. You get it, right? That feeling? That stretch of survival that most people ignore, unless you've lived it. That's what makes this story so real. Because the moment Lila saw that wallet, her brain lit up with one question. What if this is it? My break. My escape. My miracle. But Lila wasn't raised like that. Her mom, a waitress who never finished high school, always said, "Your name's all you got in this world. Don't you dare stain it." So instead of pocketing it, Lila opened the wallet, hoping to find an ID, maybe a phone number. What she found inside? A business card made from actual metal. A name she didn't recognize, but the logo? It was one of those names you see on glass skyscrapers, luxury cars, and $1,200 phones. Lila didn't know yet, but the man who dropped that wallet owned half the city. He was the kind of billionaire you never see walking alone. And yet, his wallet ended up in the hands of a girl who couldn't afford lunch. Now here's where it gets interesting, and why you need to stick with me to the very end. Because this isn't just about a good girl doing the right thing. This story is about what happened next. What Lila didn't know was that this billionaire was going through something. Something that money, power, and private jets couldn't fix. And when she made that one choice, to return a wallet that could have been her payday, she unknowingly became a part of something far bigger than she'd ever imagined. We're talking about a twist so insane, even Hollywood would hesitate. But it's real. And it's unfolding right here. Let me ask you something personal because yes, I want you to feel this story, not just hear it. Have you ever made a decision that felt small, only to realize later it changed everything? That's what this is. A domino. A crack in fate's glass. And the best part? You're going to watch every piece fall one by one. The drama, the betrayal, the second chance, the moment where she realizes who the wallet really belongs to, and why he's been searching for someone just like her all along. I'm not just telling you a story. I'm handing you the keys to something bigger than algorithms and thumbnails. This is human. It's raw. And yes, it's going to make you question what you would have done in her shoes. Now, I know how YouTube works. You're used to clickbait. You've clicked on stories before and left disappointed. Not this time. I respect your time. And I want you to know, every second you spend watching is going to give you more than just entertainment. It's going to stir something in you, make you think, make you feel. Because this isn't just about a rich man and a broke girl. It's about timing. It's about character. It's about what happens when the universe throws 2 completely different people into one impossible moment, and how kindness, yes, just kindness, changes the trajectory of not just one life, but 2. Let me introduce the other character, though only just a little. His name is Daniel Grant. You've seen his kind before, at least on screens. The tailored suits, the silent car doors, the $300 watch that doesn't even tick. But here's what nobody sees. Daniel's been missing something for a long time. A connection. A real one. not built on status or stock portfolios or followers. And when his wallet disappears, a wallet that, let's just say, contains more than just cash, he launches a search that's less about property and more about discovery. But he doesn't know it's Lila. Not yet. And here's the kicker. Lila doesn't even know what she's holding. She doesn't know about the note tucked in that hidden flap. She doesn't know that her name will soon be trending online. She doesn't know she's about to be offered something no job application ever promised. What starts as a simple return becomes a media storm, a corporate shakeup, and a personal transformation that neither she nor Daniel saw coming. But before we go further, I have to warn you, not everyone is happy about what's about to happen. In fact, there are people watching closely, ready to destroy everything, simply because they believe Lila doesn't belong in a billionaire's world. And maybe, just maybe, she doesn't. So, what happens next? Does Daniel find her? Does she accept what's coming her way? And more importantly, what exactly was hidden in that wallet that made returning it the most important decision of her life? I want you to stay with me, not because I'm begging for views, but because I know that something in this story is going to speak to you, to your values, your dreams, maybe even your past. And if you've ever believed that one small act of honesty could unlock something bigger, then you're going to love where this goes. Don't go anywhere, because just when you think you know what's coming, this story pulls the rug out from under you. There's a twist you're not ready for. And it starts with one single phone call, one Lila never expected to receive. The phone didn't ring. It buzzed low and slow, the kind of vibration that rattles nerves more than it alerts. Lila looked down at the screen, expecting another notification from her banking app, reminding her she had less than $10 to her name. But instead, it was a number she didn't recognize, all zeros, like it had been masked or routed through some network she didn't even know existed. She hesitated. She was standing outside the laundromat, holding a trash bag full of her only clothes, debating if she could risk another dollar on detergent. Her thumb hovered. Should she answer? Maybe it was a scam. Or maybe it was someone from the business card she'd seen inside that heavy, black leather wallet, the one she'd left with the receptionist at that cold, glass building downtown, just like she said she would. She didn't even give them her name, just dropped it off and walked away. Because Lila never expected anything in return. She just wanted to do the right thing. But the universe? It wasn't done with her yet. When she finally picked up, a voice came through, smooth, deliberate, male, and oddly calm. Is this Lila Brooks? She froze. Her name wasn't in that wallet. She hadn't left her ID. No contact information. The only way someone could have connected her to that act was if someone had been watching. Who is this? She asked cautiously, her voice edged with both fear and exhaustion. The man on the line paused before responding. Mr. Grant would like to thank you in person. Her heart thudded. That name again. Daniel Grant. She'd Googled it after returning the wallet, and the results were overwhelming. Forbes lists, business articles, charity gala photos, trending shorts and reels of him leaving high-stakes meetings in tailored suits, never smiling, always focused. The billionaire CEO of Grant Tech Industries, a name tied to everything from real estate to artificial intelligence. The kind of man who existed behind tinted windows and encrypted emails. And now he wanted to meet her? Meanwhile, across the city, in a penthouse with a view that seemed to float above the clouds, Daniel Grant sat in silence. The same metal business card that Lila had found was now back in his hands, but this time, it trembled slightly between his fingers. It wasn't just a card, and it wasn't just a wallet. Hidden inside that wallet, slipped between a false lining, was a photo of a girl, about 5 or 6, with the same big brown eyes Lila had. The photo was worn, like it had been carried for years. And Daniel couldn't stop staring at it. This wasn't just about gratitude. There was something hauntingly familiar about the woman who had returned it. Something he couldn't yet explain. But he wasn't the only one watching. Someone else had seen what happened at the front desk. A woman named Savannah, Daniel's longtime associate, had watched the entire encounter from the security room. And what she saw on Lila's face, that mix of fear and goodness, disturbed her. Savannah had worked her way up from nothing too. But she'd learned early on that there's no room for honesty in a world built on power. And if this girl, this unknown, broke, paint-stained girl, was about to become part of Daniel's world, Savannah was going to find out why. And maybe stop it before it went too far. Back in her tiny basement room, Lila was pacing, her mind racing as fast as her heartbeat. She'd been told a car would come for her the next morning, that she'd be brought to Daniel Grant's private estate just outside the city, not the corporate office downtown, but his actual home, a place no one ever went unless they were family or part of his inner circle. That alone felt surreal. But what kept nagging at her was why. Why would a man worth billions want to personally thank a stranger? She looked around her room, the peeling paint, the secondhand furniture, the cracked phone screen, and wondered if maybe this was some elaborate prank. A social experiment? A test? She didn't know yet that her photo had already been shown to Grant's legal team, his personal investigator, and his board members. She didn't know that files were being pulled, names cross-referenced, and background checks run. All because of a wallet. All because of her. As the sun rose, Lila stepped into the back of a sleek black SUV that pulled up to her curb right on time. The driver didn't ask questions, just offered her a bottle of water and said, "Mr. Grant is expecting you." She felt out of place, her worn sneakers squeaking against the spotless leather floor. The ride was smooth, quiet, but her thoughts were anything but. Every mile that passed felt like a step closer to something she couldn't define. A fork in the road of her life. And when the gates of the estate opened, she felt her breath catch. This wasn't just wealth, it was isolation, power, privacy. The kind of place where deals were made that shaped the future. She was led through a hallway lined with art she'd only seen in textbooks, past marble statues and sun-drenched courtyards, until finally, she was shown into a room filled with windows and silence. And there he was, Daniel Grant, standing in front of her in a dark gray suit, watching her like she was the final piece of a puzzle he'd been trying to solve for years. But before he could speak, the door behind them creaked open, and Savannah stepped in. Her heels echoed like a warning. She didn't smile. She barely acknowledged Lila. And when her eyes met Daniel's, there was something unspoken, electric, and maybe even dangerous in the silence between them. "We need to talk," Savannah said, cutting the tension like a blade. Alone. Lila felt herself freeze, caught between worlds she didn't belong to. But Daniel didn't budge. His voice was low but firm. "She stays." And that's when Lila knew something far deeper was going on than a simple thank you. She wasn't just part of a kind gesture. She was part of a secret. What was in that wallet that changed everything? Why did Daniel carry that old photo like it was sacred? And who was Lila really to this man whose life was so far removed from hers? The answers were coming, but not yet. Because just as the conversation was about to begin, Daniel's phone lit up with a single word: compromised. And with it, the story took a turn that no one, not even Daniel, saw coming. The phone screen lit up again, the word compromised flashing in bold red letters on Daniel's screen. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The air thickened, and for the first time, the cold confidence that Daniel Grant always carried with him faltered. Savannah, standing at the door with an unreadable expression, shifted her weight, her eyes narrowing as she saw the notification. Without a word, she stepped forward, reaching for the phone in his hand. "Who's it from?" she asked, her voice as sharp as a razor blade, slicing through the tension in the room. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. This wasn't just an inconvenience. This wasn't a simple hack or some minor glitch. Someone had gotten to him. Someone knew more than they should. His mind raced, his thoughts already spiraling into 1,000 different directions. The walls of the mansion, once symbols of privacy and security, suddenly felt like they were closing in on him. Who had broken through the layers of his fortress? Who had the resources to infiltrate his life this way? And why now? His heart began to race, not from fear, but from the realization that Lila was somehow at the center of it all. Lila stood there, frozen, still trying to process the fact that she was inside the world of one of the richest men in the world. Her eyes flickered nervously between Daniel and Savannah, sensing that whatever was happening had nothing to do with her return of the wallet. It wasn't about gratitude anymore. This was bigger. She could feel it in her gut. She had become a part of something much darker, something far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined when she first picked up that wallet on the street. Savannah's gaze lingered on Lila for a moment, her expression colder than ever. "Who are you?" she finally asked, her voice calm but laced with suspicion. "I've been in this industry long enough to know when someone's hiding something. And right now, you're not just a good Samaritan. You're involved." Lila swallowed hard, her hands beginning to tremble. She wasn't prepared for this. She didn't have answers to give. She had only done what she thought was right. But in this world of billionaires, power, and secrets, doing the right thing was often the most dangerous thing of all. Before Lila could respond, Daniel's voice cut through the growing tension. "Let her answer, Savannah. She's not part of this." But even as he said the words, doubt lingered in his tone. Was Lila just an innocent bystander? Or had her return of the wallet been part of something far more calculated than either of them could have realized? Just then, the door to the room opened again, but this time, it wasn't Savannah who entered. It was someone else. A man, mid-40s, tall, dressed in a black suit that screamed authority. He stepped in with a presence that filled the room, his eyes immediately locking onto Lila's. For a split second, the tension was unbearable. Lila's pulse quickened as she tried to make sense of this new player in the game. Who was he? And what did he want from her? Daniel stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "What is it, Marcus?" His voice was curt, but there was an edge to it, a mixture of impatience and something else. Something darker. Marcus, the newcomer, didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced briefly at Savannah, who nodded in response. Then he turned to Lila, his gaze piercing. "We need to talk about your family, Miss Brooks," he said, his voice smooth but chillingly direct. Lila's heart skipped a beat. Her family? She wasn't prepared for this. What did her family have to do with anything? She hadn't even told Daniel or anyone else about her mother, the woman who raised her in a small apartment, working multiple jobs just to put food on the table. But Marcus's words hit her like a slap in the face. How did he know her family? How did anyone know about them? Lila opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "Your mother, Lila," Marcus continued, his tone changing slightly, as if he was measuring her reaction. "She was more than just a waitress. She had connections, connections that run deep, connections that could change everything, for better or for worse. And now, it looks like they're coming back into play." Lila felt the ground beneath her shift. The weight of Marcus's words, the implications of what they might mean, hit her hard. The questions began to pile up in her mind faster than she could process them. What was he talking about? What kind of connections? Was this some sort of twisted game? Savannah watched closely, her arms crossed over her chest, eyes calculating. Daniel, on the other hand, looked as if he had been struck by a revelation. The wheels in his mind were turning, but Lila couldn't make sense of it. She had always thought her mother's past was just that, the past. But now, in this room with these people, it seemed like everything Lila knew about her family was about to be turned upside down. "You've heard of the Brooks name, haven't you?" Marcus asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Your mother, she wasn't just some ordinary woman. She was involved with people in ways you can't even begin to imagine. People who are still watching. People who don't forget." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and Lila's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced. She had heard whispers over the years, rumors about her mother's past. But nothing could have prepared her for this. Nothing could have prepared her for the realization that she was tangled in a web far more dangerous than she had ever known. Daniel stepped forward, his expression hardening. "Are you saying this is about Lila's mother?" His voice was tight, the calm facade he always wore slipping for the first time. Marcus didn't answer immediately, but when he did, his response was even more chilling. "This is about more than just Lila's mother. This is about what's coming. And if you think you've been in control of this situation, Daniel, then you're wrong. Because your past is about to come knocking, and it's not just going to bring trouble. It's going to bring chaos. Lila's mind was spinning, and her heart pounded in her chest as the weight of Marcus's words began to sink in. This was no longer about returning a wallet. No, this was about something much larger, something that stretched back through the years, and now it was threatening to pull her into a world she had never asked to be a part of. And just as the pieces began to fall into place, just as she started to realize how deep the rabbit hole went, the lights in the room flickered, and a distant sound, the unmistakable screech of tires on gravel, echoed from the driveway. Something was happening, and it was happening fast. Lila could feel it. The stakes were rising, and soon she would have no choice but to face the truth of what had been hidden from her all these years. Would you like me to keep pushing this story to the next level? The screeching tires grew louder, sending an unsettling chill through the room. Lila's heart raced, her hands trembling as she fought to comprehend the whirlwind of revelations that had been thrown at her. It wasn't just the wallet. It wasn't just her family. It wasn't even about the billionaire CEO standing across the room, as powerful and dangerous as he was. No, something was about to explode, and she felt as though she were standing on the edge of a cliff, with nothing but a storm below her. Savannah stepped forward, her sharp gaze darting between Daniel and Marcus. "What's happening?" Her voice was tense, but there was an edge of urgency, as if she too could sense the impending chaos. Daniel's face had gone pale, and he took a step back, his mind racing. "This isn't the time for games, Marcus," he snapped. "If you've brought me here to play mind games." But Marcus didn't let him finish. His eyes flickered briefly to the door, then back to Daniel, and there was a moment of realization in his expression, a realization that sent a shiver down Lila's spine. "There's no time left," Marcus said, his voice low and full of grim finality. "You need to prepare for what's coming." Before Daniel could respond, the front door slammed open and a rush of voices flooded in from the hallway. Lila felt a sudden surge of panic. It was as if the very walls of the mansion were closing in on her. She had no idea what was happening, but she knew she was in the middle of something far bigger than she ever imagined. Then, as if orchestrated by fate itself, a woman appeared in the doorway, tall, elegant, with striking features, her face cold and unreadable. Lila's breath caught. She didn't recognize her, but there was something about her that seemed familiar. The woman stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Lila with unnerving intensity. "You," she said simply, and for the first time since arriving at the mansion, Lila felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't just another player in the game. This was the player. The one who had been pulling the strings all along. The woman's voice was sharp, precise, and authoritative. "You've been a part of something much larger than you think," she continued, her eyes scanning Lila with unnerving focus. "Your family's legacy, your mother's legacy, it's been hidden for years. And now it's time to bring it to the surface." Lila opened her mouth to speak, but the woman held up a hand, silencing her. "Don't say anything. Not yet." The room seemed to close in on Lila as the woman's words sank in. Her mother's legacy? What was she talking about? Lila had spent her whole life thinking of her mother as just another hard-working woman who did her best to keep them afloat. The idea that there was some grand legacy, some secret, was a thought too big for her to grasp. But the woman wasn't finished. She turned to Daniel, her gaze unwavering. "It's time to face the truth, Daniel," she said coldly. "You've been running from it for too long. But now, the past has come to collect." Daniel's expression hardened, his jaw set in a way that made it clear he had known this day was coming, and yet, he wasn't ready for it. His eyes flickered briefly toward Lila, and then, for the first time, he seemed to question everything. "You knew my mother?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman didn't respond directly. Instead, she took a step forward, closing the gap between them. "Your mother and Daniel's father were close," she said, her voice full of tension. "Very close. And when your mother disappeared, it wasn't just a coincidence. She didn't leave on her own. It was all orchestrated. The revelation hit Lila like a ton of bricks. Her mother had never abandoned her. She'd been taken. The woman was right. There had been whispers over the years. But no one had ever spoken of this before, not in those words. The realization set off a chain of memories in Lila's mind. Odd phone calls, hushed conversations when she was a child, strange men showing up at their apartment asking questions. It all clicked into place now. Her mother hadn't just been a waitress. She had been involved in something far more dangerous. And she had left for Lila's safety. But the story wasn't over. No, it was only just beginning. As the woman finished her explanation, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hall once again. A second group of figures appeared, this time all wearing suits, their faces shadowed, their movements synchronized. Daniel's expression darkened as he recognized the new arrivals. "The board?" he asked, his voice tense. The woman nodded. "They've been waiting for this moment, Daniel," she said, turning back to Lila. "They knew you would come back into the picture. They've been waiting for the right time to act." It was at that moment that Lila realized just how deep this rabbit hole went. This wasn't just about a wallet or about a family secret. This was about power. This was about control. And Lila, by simply doing the right thing, by returning the wallet, had just found herself at the center of a battle between two forces more powerful than she could ever have imagined. The stakes were higher than she could have ever dreamed, and the consequences were now within arm's reach. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a voice broke through the tension. It was Daniel's, calm but filled with resolve. "Enough," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "This stops now." Lila watched as he turned to face the woman who had been leading them all. "You've made your move. But this ends with me. This ends with Lila." The room fell silent as Daniel's words sank in. Everyone, including the board members, seemed to hold their breath, waiting for what would come next. In a move that left everyone stunned, Daniel turned to Lila and walked toward her, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of regret and determination. "I never wanted this for you," he said softly, his voice barely audible. "But now that you're here, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure you have the answers you deserve. And I'll make sure the past doesn't destroy your future." Lila stood there, her heart pounding, as she realized just how much her life had changed in the span of a few hours. She had entered a world of power, secrets, and betrayal, and yet, somehow, she had become the key to unraveling it all. The final twist came just as they were about to leave the room. Marcus, the man who had been so cryptic and menacing, stepped forward one last time, his expression dark. "You're not the only one with secrets, Daniel," he said, his voice cold. "There's one thing you haven't considered. You've been so focused on your own legacy, you forgot about mine." And with that, Marcus revealed the final, most shocking truth of all. Lila's mother had been his sister. The two of them had been part of an empire that went beyond anything Daniel's family had ever known. And just like that, the world Lila had once known, her simple, quiet life, was gone forever. Now, she was not just the daughter of a waitress, but the heir to a legacy that stretched across generations of power, wealth, and unimaginable danger. The twists had come full circle, and the story was far from over. As the camera zooms out, leaving Lila standing in the middle of a new world, the screen fades to black, the words "to be continued" lingering ominously in the air.